Hi there guys, Tony here from Caveman Props. Well, it's almost Christmas, so wanted to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Looking forward to the new year. I've got lots of things lined up for you. You would think, with it being Christmas, with this build tutorial, I'll be doing something based on a Christmas film, or something a bit Christmassy related. Well, unfortunately not, unless you've been living under a rock just recently. We have a new Star Wars film coming out just in time for Christmas, so I thought I'd do a lovely Star Wars build. And what else than the original Boba Fett helmet. This was built from EVA foam again. You may be working out by now I'm loving the EVA foam. I did wanted to do two Star Wars builds for you. Unfortunately, due to work and some paid bits and pieces, I didn't have time. I'm still planning to do it. I'm going to do it in the new year, but only had time to get this one done. And because I was short on time, I've only done it with photographs. So I'm going to go through the photographs with you now as we explain the build rather than bits of video. So obviously, naturally, with this being an EVA foam build, I started off with a sheet of 10mm EVA foam. I had a template which I downloaded online. I am planning to put that template on our Facebook page, so you can head to our Facebook page and find it there. I laid it out onto the piece of foam. I also drew a circle, which wasn't with the template, 11.5 inches wide. So that's what we needed for the top dome. The template, I scaled the side pieces to 5 inches to fit with that. So once you've downloaded the picture, you can kind of work it out from there yourselves. So I laid it all out. The template comes in half, so you basically put it on and then flip it over and double it. I cut all the pieces out. I then used a heat gun to heat the 11.5 inch disc. You then push that into a bowl to create the dome. A little tip for you here: when I first tried this, I used a mixing bowl and pushed it in. Unfortunately, the air inside the dome, inside the bowl, as you push it in to make the dome, has to come out. So that comes out through the sides and creates a fold because it pushes the side in to escape. What would be best is if you can get your hands on a large colander, because it has the holes in it so the air can escape somewhere else and you create a really nice dome. Or you can basically do what I did. I went out and bought a heat resistant plastic bowl, because you're heating the foam up, it needs to be a heat resistant plastic bowl, and I just drilled a few holes in the bottom of it just for the air to escape. So that worked quite well for this one. So we made the dome, then used my rotary tool and a sander on it. I sanded off the very edges because now it was curved, they weren't flush, so I needed to make them flush again. I then took the face front panel and heated that over a paint pot tin, so to get the curve in that, and then that was glued onto the head plate. I then took the back plate and we wanted to add some detailing on that, so I marked out a little square on the back. I cut that out and then, using the rotary tool again and a scalpel, cut some details into it, then run the heat gun over it. And as you run the heat gun over it, any cuts or details that you've cut into it will then open up and kind of seal off and curve a little bit, which made a nice pattern in there. I then put that back into the head section to glue back in, but I didn't push it all the way back in, so it was slightly recessed. So that was kind of the detail we were going for there. I then heated the whole back panel and bent that over the paint pot tin again, and then that was glued into the back. A little tip for you: when you do the template up and measure it out, always add a little bit extra on the side. It's easier to cut this off once you add it on. My dome was obviously a little bit bigger, so once I put that on, the side pieces didn't quite marry up. You can put an extra piece in, because once you add the detailing over the top, that's going to be covered. But what you can do is just make your back section a little bit bigger, start it from the middle, and as you get round, just chop off the excess and glue it in place. So once I had the front and back panel on, I started on the side cheeks. I took the bit that was cut out from the template, cut the curve out of that. I then cut from the corner in, as you can see on the photograph, and made that a little bit bigger. I then cut two sections of that out on 5mm EVA foam, front and back. Used the heat gun to create that and to curve that. I have seen some people just cut it straight and add a little bit extra, so you've got more of a straight line in there rather than a curve, but I wanted to go for the curve. They were then glued into the cheek pieces, I then just took another piece of 5mm EVA foam that was then stuck on the back of that to add that detail, and then just trimmed off. I then took the front template again and laid that out on 5mm EVA foam and cut that out. But before that bit could be glued in place, sorry, I took the middle section that I cut out and used that as a template to cut out the visor section. I had some, it was a almost see-through black plastic wallet. It wasn't very dark. Once you put 2 layers of it together, it made it a bit darker. So I used that template. I didn't cut it out exactly to that. I went a little bit wider because you want a little bit more space on it. So that's what I did there. I cut that out, and then that was tacked in on the front panel to hold it in place. I then glued the 5mm front panel on over the top, so that held the front in there. Obviously I made the sides of that a little bit wider because obviously now you're going around the outside of your existing one. And then used some more 5mm foam. I didn't have a template for this, but you just measure it out on the back, and you cut the side pieces to the same, and then a little strip that runs all the way around the back. So that goes in place, and then that basically covers up any mistakes that you've made on the side there. I then went back with the 10mm EVA foam and cut a strip that was about 2 centimeters wide. I cut it a little bit longer than I needed to fit down the side of the helmet. I used a plastic lid curved off the top end, and then using the rotary tool again, I beveled the edges to create a nice curve onto it, and then using a smaller rotary bit sander created a groove running all the way down the middle. That was then glued onto the side. That then covers that seam up, so that creates that. I then did exactly the same, but this time I cut a piece 4.5 centimeters high from the top. Did the same again, beveled the edges, created a little groove down the middle. I then cut the exact same shape out, using it as a template, 3 times in 5mm EVA foam. And then as you can see by the pictures, I took one piece, cut a top corner out of it, kept one piece as it was, and then cut one bit short. These pieces will then glue together in that order. The reason for this is then you now have a lip bit to go on the other side, which will go over the 5mm detailing you've had on the front, and then you've got the little section there we can create the arm, this bit, to be able to curve it in the front. I used a wooden skewer, which is quite cheap, and used a staple gun to staple that into place. That then creates it as kind of like a hinge to hinge in that bit, and then glued the front piece back onto that. You can just make that static if you want, so it doesn't move. I just wanted to show that you can make it so it bends. That bit was then glued onto the opposite side. Obviously that little bit that we cut shorter goes over the lip. So that was glued into place, and then I did exactly the same as I did on the opposite side, a longer piece, but I didn't curve the top. I just beveled the edges and done a straight line down through the middle, and that went on the side there to complete that. Once all that was done, I masked off the front visor because it was time for painting. A friend of mine directed me to the plastic coat primer. He said if you use the plastic coat primer you wouldn't have to do, normally when I do helmet builds like this I'll do a couple of coats of PVA glue just to seal it in. He says if you just heat gun the whole thing and then use the plastic primer, it will work just as well, save a bit of time. That's what I did on this build. It has worked, I do like it. Unfortunately it hasn't quite come out as metallic as I would hoped. So I think maybe next time I probably would do at least a couple of coats of PVA, and then do the plastic primer over the top of that, and then the metallic spray paint. So it's spray painted it all green. And while that was drying, I then started to work on the bit for the top of the pole here. I stuck 3 bits of the 10mm EVA foam together. And then using a scroll saw, cut out the detail that I needed. I kept one piece that I cut out, and then cut that a little bit smaller, and that was glued back onto place before it was then glued on the top of the pole here. Once the green coat was dry, I masked it all off, some paper and masking tape, and sprayed the rest of it red. So that got the red detailing around the side here. and again, once all that was dry, I left it a good day to dry. I then masked off the side pieces. So these side pieces that we then stuck on, I then spray painted them in a nice metallic gold, and that came out quite nicely. And then basically using a silver Sharpie or paint pen, I just painted this pole in to be a silver colour. Obviously it got a bit of the paint on the bottom here, but then we painted that. So then that's all done and finished, and I think you'll agree that does look quite good. What I'm planning to do is, obviously the helmet's brilliant, I really like it, but as we all know, the Boba Fett helmet is not pristine, not brand new like this. It is a little bit weathered, it's a little bit battle damaged. So what I'm going to do is, in the new year, we're going to come back to this, and I'm going to do a tutorial on you on how to add weathering and battle damage to the helmet. So that's going to be a part 2 video for this one. So we're going to get back to that in the new year, and hopefully some other videos. There we go. Hopefully I haven't rabbited on too quickly for you, been able to follow that. Obviously we'll be back in the new year. We've got lots more props to build, lots more tutorials. You can find us on our Facebook page. There's lots of stuff posted on there. We don't do videos for everything, unfortunately, but we've got some more weapon builds coming up. I've got a lot planned for the new year. Obviously you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and just follow us. We look forward to hearing from you. I'd love to hear some of your comments. Post me some of the pictures if you followed this tutorial and built your own helmet, or your own other style helmet in the same way. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see what some of you are building. So I look forward to that, and I'll see you all in the new year, and all have a very Merry Christmas.